gonna go there. But she did kill a guy. Just remember that. Caitlyn Jenner killed a guy. Ran him over. He's dead. But she's a hero. Thank you. Well, before I bring him on, I want to say a few things about Helgi. Helgi is an amazing comedian. He's been doing comedy in China, which I have no idea how the fuck you make people in a country like China laugh, but I'm sure we're going to hear about that tonight. For one, you wouldn't be able to see them with all the smog most of the time. But, I don't want to venture into his territory of what he's going to talk about. So he's been doing comedy in China. He also successfully took a show from here it was called Nothing to Declare, to Manchester this year. And he did quite a few sellouts there, which is amazing. He also was part of the Reykjavik Comedy Festival. He put together, so did anyone see the big Christmas show that was at Chutneybeer? Yeah, give a shout out if you heard that one. He was responsible for that. He made that happen. So he booked the venue, he got all the comedians involved, and it was an amazing night. It was such a nice atmosphere with, there was 12 or 13 different comedians involved. It was a wonderful thing. So this guy is gonna go places. And I'm saying this because I want my voice on this recording saying that this guy's gonna go places. So I have proof that I knew him, so that when he does get famous, I can make up lots of shit about him and say I totally knew him, it's all true. Yeah, he was totally snorting coke off the back of prostitutes every night. Yeah, he killed a guy. But he's a hero. Just like Caitlyn Jenner. Without any further ado, can I please get you to put your hands together and make an incredibly huge welcome for your main act this evening, Mr. Helgi Steinar!
Gaukurinn! How are you guys doing tonight? Oh my god, this is an amazing turnout. This is awesome. Hey, listen, before we get started with this whole thing, can we just get one more round of applause for Jonathan Duffy tonight? I gotta say, that man is a musical and comedy genius. I love him. Also, how about one more round of applause for Þórhallur Þórhallsson? Right, yeah. It's always kind of a weird feeling as a comedian when your warm-up act is actually more famous than you. Felt kind of like Retro Steffson asking U2 to open for them. Like, yeah, you do the comedy thing, right? Yeah, good. Good evening, everybody. My name is Helgi Steinar, and I would like to welcome you to my show here tonight, The Good China. This show here tonight, it was actually kind of a spontaneous thing that just happened. The build-up to the show was actually very, very Icelandic. It was a last-minute drunk decision. There was no planning involved. And every single communication that happened about the show pretty much just took place via Snapchat. But, I feel like I should probably start with a disclaimer because even though the name of the show is The Good China, that's not all I'm going to be talking about tonight. Because I have, over the last few months, realized that amongst my comedian friends, I've become somewhat annoying. Just because China apparently is like the only thing I ever talk about. I've become like one of those annoying hipster friends who think they're so worldly because they went backpacking in Southeast Asia for 2 weeks, and now they just can't shut up about it. They're like, oh, you want to go get a beer? Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, when I was in Asia... Oh my god, you should have been there. I went to go see the Buddha. It's just such an amazing experience. It just completely changed my entire Facebook profile picture. No, it's been fun, and I've been spending about the last 5 months or so here in Iceland writing for my master's thesis. Yeah. No, I told my professor in Beijing, at Beijing University, that I needed to go to Iceland to conduct research for my paper, and by conduct research for my paper, I meant going to London and getting shit-faced. No, it's been a lot of fun, man. I have actually gotten a lot of writing done on my paper, but one thing I noticed about myself is that I can't really write at home. I gotta write at cafes or libraries. Because I figure I just get more work done, because, you're not allowed to masturbate in public, so focuses all your energy on other stuff. But apart from that, I have been mostly just doing a lot of stand-up comedy here at Gaukurinn, which has been really fun. I've mostly just been doing stand-up comedy in front of drunk tourists who have had their Northern Lights tours canceled. Oh, I heard we got some tourists in here tonight, right? We got tourists in here? Yeah? You guys are from where? The UK? Yeah. You're British tourists? Yeah. Are you guys like one of those British tourists who require our search and rescue helicopters 3 times in a month? Because you haven't quite figured out what a glacier is? Look, I loved reading that story. Like, I would have actually liked to have been there when they rescued those guys for the 3rd time. Like, see those search and rescue guys come out like, guys, really? Like, they're like, oh, I don't know, mate. The brochure said Iceland. We get here, it's just freezing. The winds are blowing 30 meters a second. I thought it was going to be like Ibiza. Oh, man. Tourists are fun people, because I remember I used to work in tourism about a couple years ago, and working in tourism is sort of an area of employment where you kind of think you've heard it all. And then, some American woman comes up to you dead serious and asks something like, so hey, what time y'all turn off the Northern Lights? That's not how that... Oh, also, if I'm staying at Grand Hotel, where can I go see the volcano? I want to throw a penny in and make a wish. Throw yourself in and make us a wish. No. Tourists are nice people, and I think, if there are any other tourists in here tonight, I just want to say, and I think I speak on behalf of every single Icelander when I say thank you. Thank you, tourists, for turning my beautiful city of Reykjavik into a glorified stuffed puffin supply store. I've always said if there's one thing Iceland needs, it's not banking reform, it's more places to buy polar bear keychains. Man, but it's been fun. I noticed that that's not the only thing that's changed here in Iceland. A lot of things have changed since I got back. For example, all my friends now have kids. They're all dead. And they're not like one kid. These guys are cranking out kids like it's an assembly line. I go over to their house for dinner, I'm like, Jesus, dude, pull out. It's like, yeah, hello, Helgi, I didn't know this is Gunnar, little. And, Edda, and, the 5th one is due next month. And a lot of other things have changed, too. Helgi Steinar is now in charge of healthcare. I love Helgi Steinar. He kind of looks like the guy who gets unhooded at the end of every Scooby-Doo episode. Very, very lovable guy. What else has changed? Oh, also, apparently it costs 900 kroners to go swimming now. I'm guessing that's another effect of the tourism industry. That I don't get. What is swimming pools in Iceland? What do they consist of? Old people and hot water. 2 things that Iceland is in no short supply of. It's like, seriously, like when Ingo Veðurguð doesn't even have money to pay for swimming entrances, you know shit's getting bad. Poor Ingo Veðurguð. Of course he can't afford swimming, he's not getting one of those fancy artist paychecks. No, but I think what's really fun is being an Icelander overseas, because like a lot of people in China, for example, none of them even, like a lot of them haven't even heard of Iceland, and those who have are like, oh, Bingdal, Iceland. Oh yes, I know Iceland. The economy go boom. That's the one. And so what's fun is that you get to screw around with your friends and tell them things that aren't really true. Like, one thing I told my roommate was I actually managed to convince him that Ingvarhrapp was like Iceland's main news anchor. I told him he was like our Dan Rather. And he didn't understand a fucking word the guy said, but he loved watching him. We were like sitting in some chairs and had the laptop open, and the guy's fucking high as hell too. So he's like, dude, your news anchor is wasted. I'm like, hey, that's nothing. You think he's drunk? Here, listen to this. In Iceland, we call this útvarpssaga. I love it. I did an interview with útvarpssaga. Did you guys listen to that the other day? No, I mean, you're not taxi drivers, I know, but... útvarpssaga, that place is awesome. It's everything I dreamed it would be. That place is so surreal. Like, I'm not making this up. I walked into their break room, and their break room, there's like a copy of the Icelandic Constitution next to like 6 empty beer cans. I'm like, this right here, this is what talk radio was made for. I don't know, it's, they love to drink, and we all do, because we're Icelanders. I'm scout for that, I guess. But in all honesty, I've been trying to kind of like cut back a little bit on the booze, part of my, New Year's resolution thing. Because the thing is, when you're a comedian, you often work at bars, and of course you get paid in beer. And I'm not complaining, but that sort of a lifestyle, your life can very quickly become very Charlie Sheeny. I'm not talking about the sex, just the occasional waking up in an ambulance. So I made the decision. I'm gonna lay off the booze a little bit. So like 2 weeks into it, I'm just realized being sober fucking sucks. Like nothing eventful happens. Like remember one day I ended up having like a 2-hour conversation with my grandma about birds. Which that was like the high point of the day. Just listening to a 2-hour narration on sparrows. I'm like, Jesus Christ, man. No wonder people who don't drink live longer. That was the longest day of my life. Like halfway through, I'm like leaning over, eyeing a bottle of dish soap, wondering how much liquor's in it. But another thing that I kind of realized about being an Icelander overseas is it's like, you think as an Icelander everything you do is normal and our whole way of life is normal, but it's not really. And I noticed this during Christmas last year when I was explaining the Icelandic Christmas to a friend of mine, my American friend, because it was Christmas time and we were all wondering like how Christmas is in all of our countries. And I said, so I just started explaining to him the Icelandic Christmas as if nothing else was normal. I was like, yeah, so in Iceland you have like grilla and leppalúði, and they are really ugly, but they have 13 kids, and they are all Santa Claus. And they do all kinds of things too. They like steal hot dogs and slam doors, and one licks pots, But it is very, very important for them to give the kids clothes, because in Iceland, if the kids don't get any clothes, then they just go inside the Christmas cat. Oh no, not like bestiality. No. The cat just eats them. Or Grilla will come and kidnap them and boil them alive. It's a very magical time of year. And then I was explaining to him Gluggagæir, or the window peeper. Talk about a child-appropriate Santa Claus, huh? Some smelly, bearded dude living in the mountains like a hermit. Yes, once a year he comes down from the mountains and peeps in through the window and watches your children while they're asleep. And he was like, that's what he does? Like, no, of course not. He also gives them a special surprise in their shoe. No, it is good to be back, man. But I do feel that, because I've been talking about me being Icelandic, I should probably address my accent. Yes, I am Icelandic, but I actually grew up in the States, and it was a really fun time. Like, I never ever thought of myself as being either American or Icelandic. I was like, just kind of both, and I never thought that I was a foreigner from the US until I was about 12 years old, and my green card got declined. It was like there was some glitch in the system, and my green card didn't go through. So I'm just set this up here. I'm 12 years old, little blonde hair, had a Pokemon backpack and a Tamagotchi hanging on the back of it. So walking through JFK Airport, as always, I hand in my green card and swipes it through and beep, doesn't work. It's like, all right, sir, I'm 12, but whatever. Like, all right, sir, there seems to be a little problem here with your permanent residence card. This is Officer Michaels. And I look up, and it was cool because I'd never seen Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson before. And he's like, he's just gonna ask you some questions, follow me. I'm like, fuck. So he takes me into a back room and just starts interrogating the fuck out of a 12-year-old kid. It's like, all right, sir, we're just gonna ask you several questions here to help us determine the nature of your stay here in the United States. Do you understand? All right, first question. Are you currently traveling with a currency amount exceeding that of 10,000 US dollars? During your stay here in the United States, do you harbor any plans to attempt an overthrow of the United States government? Third question. Did you at any point between the years 1933 and 1945 participate in any Nazi-related activities or any activities that aided and abetted the German Third Reich? Where's my mommy? Sir, I'll be asking the question. Oh man, no, it was a fun time. I love living in the States, but you know, every now and then you kind of feel remorseful. And I think if there was any time in my life to feel embarrassed about my American background, it is now. Just watching that fucking psych ward of Republican candidates trying to run for office. I mean, did any of you guys watch the Republican debates? I know you're not Americans, but did you guys watch the Republican debates? Anybody? Yeah. You guys gotta watch that shit. It's like a fucking HBO comedy special. It's like they're standing there like, now you say what a lot of good folks don't realize about Obama is that he one of them werewolves from outer space. No, Senator, the question was, what do you plan to do about health care? Assault rifles. Oh yeah, and Jesus. Mm-hmm. And hunting squirrels with tanks. Thank you. Merc! See, that's what I loved about watching that shit, because they kept saying there was a consistency among all those idiots there that we have to rebuild America's military. You know, like it was blown up by aliens. It was like, rebuild America's... Are you fucking kidding? Dude, America spends $673 billion on the military every year. That's more than the next 12 countries combined. Like, America is like a dude playing Grand Theft Auto with cheat codes. Like, L1, L2, XXX, left, right, aircraft carrier! America spends more money on shit that goes boom than the Galactic Empire in Star Wars. I'm like 90% sure that America is just like one Texas president away from actually having their own Death Star. Well, I could totally see that going down. As the guy sits at his table like, hey, what's all this paper stuff you put in front of me? It's a bill, Mr. President. Bill for what? I don't read too good. It's for the Pentagon Death Star. Death Star? Oh, hey, is that one of them things that ninjas throw? No, it blows up planets. Or, oh, hell yeah, let me sign that puppy here. Cletus. I don't know. It's sort of an interesting time we live in, because you guys realize that we live in an era now where humans have access to more facts and knowledge and information than at any point in human history. And yet still, tens of millions of Americans look at a guy like Donald Trump and go, yeah, why not? You know, I never thought that Mexicans started AIDS and killed off all the dinosaurs, but now that he says it, you know, because of course, that's the crowd he's playing to. The, yeah, goddamn right, I don't trust them Mexicans, just, you know, coming over our border, just being all Muslim. Yeah, Donald Trump, he gonna make America great again. We gonna bring back Jesus. Gonna get rid of all that sciencey shit. Gonna replace mandatory health care with mandatory NRA membership, so that every man, woman, and child in this country can prepare themselves for the war against China. And then finally, we will have the freedom to masturbate in our pickup trucks while listening to AM radio. America, America. I don't know what the fuck happened. I don't know what the hell happened. I mean, America, the thing is, used to have requirements for public office. You know, before George W. Bush, it was at least speaking in complete sentences. You know? Now it just seems to be as long as you can play one of the characters on the Dukes of Hazzard, you're fine. I mean, I don't know what the requirements are in the UK for members of Parliament, but I mean, from what I've read, it just seems you really, really need to like little boys. No. Good, man. You're from the Midlands, right? You like that? No, I kid the Brits, man. I actually had a really good time in the UK. I went there last November for the Manchester Comedy Festival. I always love going to the UK, and I think I'll probably never forget the first time I went there. You see, I was probably guilty of the same thing that a lot of us are guilty of when we're going to a new country we've never been to. You know, you just kind of like go by your stereotypes. So I was like sitting on EasyJet, just so excited, like kind of half expecting the whole country to look like the cast of Downton Abbey. Oh my God, it's gonna be amazing. I'm like totally gonna have tea with the Queen. But the thing is, my friend who I was staying with at the time, he didn't get off work until 5. So he said, yeah, just go to a pub, wait for me there, I'll come pick you up. So I'm just like, all right, just walking down the streets of Piccadilly with my suitcase, just still thinking everyone's gonna look like a character in a Dickens novel. And then I walked in, you guys are gonna get this, because I walked into the first pub that I saw, which was the Manchester Piccadilly Wetherspoons at 11 a.m. on a Monday. I didn't even know they served alcohol that early. And not only served alcohol, it was like happy hour. Like an absolute fucking tourist, I walk up to the, the front thing, and I was like, yeah, you have any, like, British beer? I want some the most British beer you can give me. And this, like, northerner, like, working class guy comes up to me, and apparently Wetherspoons has a different language than the rest of the UK. Because he walked up and like, oh, mate, you should get a wife because you're not your fucking head off. What? See, apparently wife beater means... Exactly. One would think you could just say that. But he said, because I was happy when I found out when I got the translation for it, because I thought he was suggesting that I beat my wife because it'll knock her fucking head off. I was like, wow, man, English people have a weird way of starting conversations. No, that was like one of the stereotypes that were blown out of the water when I went to the UK. Another one was British television. Because until I went to the UK, I always thought that like British television was like really smart and informative, like David Attenborough, QI. So I was very surprised when I turned on the TV and the first thing I saw was an episode of something called The Geordie Shore. You guys know? I was like 30 seconds in, I'm like, what the fuck is this? 10 minutes in, I'm glued to the screen. Because it's obviously very, very, not informative, but entertaining. And I very quickly developed a crush on one of the characters on the Geordie Shore, Holly. Yeah. I love the blank stare she gives every time she's done talking about one of their tanning bed sex orgies she had. They're like sitting down, it's like, well, I called this going, like, it's like, whatever. Then later we went back to Tiger, and like the atmosphere was just shit. Like all the tequila in Mexico couldn't bring us back together. I was like, oh, she's done. Okay. It's like a computer buffering. It just stops. No, man, British TV is fun. One of the things I loved was growing up in America. I noticed that Britain has their own version of Cops. It's like Cops UK. It's very. I mean, it's fun to watch, but it's not as entertaining as the American version. Nobody gets shot or tasered, or there's no attack dogs or anything like that. They just, because the guy who narrates that show, he always tries to make it seem like it's really, really exciting. He's like, and that's when Officer Richards realizes that the only way to catch this fugitive is to make a U-turn on the motorway. I was like, yeah, you go! But I started thinking, like, I actually have an idea to make that show a little bit more interesting. Have the guy who narrates the American version of Cops to narrate the British one. That would be way more interesting. Just like, tonight on British Cops, an evening of rugby and warm lager quickly turns violent as Scotland Yard is tipped off to the dangerous behavior of these two gentlemen. The pursuing officers are highly suspicious that the driver of this Opel Astra may be driving without insurance. Bad boys, what you gonna do? They're just interviewing the cop in the car, like, Roy, as a cop, every now and then you got to sort of deal with, petty crimes, got people nicking Mars bars, and of course the occasional jaywalker, but we actually pulled the prints on this bloke, and as it turns out, this guy's got a prior. That's when the officers quickly learned that 2 years ago, this fugitive was very nasty to his mother. What you gonna do when they come for you? Like, you gotta be, like, I've always had the idea, you need to be very aware of the country you're going to. You need to know something about it. And a perfect example of me not knowing something about a country I'm going to was when I went to the UK. I, for example, could not give less of a shit about football. But every single one of my friends here in Iceland, it's like a religion. And one of my best friends, he's a huge Liverpool FC supporter, so while I was in Manchester, I was like, hey, this guy's birthday is coming up. I'll take the train to Anfield, get him like a proper authentic jersey, and one for his kid too. That'll be really cool. Of course, not taking into account, I needed to take the train back to Manchester walking through the streets of Manchester swinging a gigantic "You'll Never Walk Alone" bag like an absolute fucking tourist. England is fun! Why are people throwing shit at me? Yeah. No, traveling is fun. I mean, it is, it's sort of an experience you have, and I think, because you can only know so much about people and their countries from reading, so you need to experience it. And one of the things I experienced in China was that there's a lot of my friends were from Russia, which I was really happy about, because Russia is one of those countries that I've always tried to understand a little bit better. I've always tried to pinpoint them. First of all, I just kind of feel bad for them. I mean, everything they do seems to kind of fucking just collapse. Soviet Union collapsed. The Olympics in Sochi, a fucking disaster. Their social acceptance of gay people, well, let's say, could use a little workshop. But the reason for it is because I've always wanted to do stand-up comedy in Russia, and I have yet to this day not seen a single stand-up comedian from Russia that I can relate to. So I can't understand how their comedy, what it even looks like. Is it like, hey, do you not hate it when mother is making borscht soup and then bear come and kill her? But yeah, it's... I'm guessing, I don't know, I'm guessing it's just a lot of homophobic jokes. No, that's another thing that's so confusing to me. How is the country that produces the highest number of male ballet dancers and figure skaters homophobic? Yes, but in Russia we hate the gay, but we love the bourgeois ballet. They are all such tight pants wearing, like Comrade Putin, shirtless, riding stallion. Anyway, no, I think that for once, the UN could probably do something useful, because I think Russia is secretly gay. That's the only way you can explain all their behavior. I mean, we know those people who've been in the closet for so long, they just lash out. I think for once the UN, don't do sanctions, don't threaten them, just do an intervention. Just have all the countries meeting at the UN, and then when Russia walks in, they can just all be sitting there hey Russia, have a seat. Listen, you don't need to live this lie anymore. Come on, we know what's going on. Invading Crimea from the rear. You owe it to yourself. Is this why you're invading everybody? You owe it to yourself to be happy. We're not going to think any less of you. It's probably not even physically possible. Oh, come on. We're not going to think you're weird. Besides, being weird is Japan's job. Listen, I know a lot of things I'm going to say here tonight. Some of them are true, some of them aren't. That's just how comedy works. One thing is very true. Being weird is definitely Japan's job. You guys have seen the kind of shit they put on TV. Japan's idea for a game show is having people have sex with a wall in between them so they can't see each other while some animatronic Godzilla tickles them in the ass or something. And the host of the TV show's next to them yatta yatta, just cheering them on, and there's music and confetti flowing everywhere. And then, whoa, when the guy's done, they lift the thing up and it's your sister! What the fuck? How do you even win at that game? What was the whole point of that? Jeez, man. Yeah, no, sex is fun. I don't know, I kind of feel like porn is ruining sex for me. And I just realized as I said that the entire audience is made up of 80% of my family, so... Sorry guys, this is just this was inevitable. No, but I do feel porn is ruining sex for me, but it's not for any ulterior reason. I just think that it just sets the standards too high. It's for example, blowjobs. Blowjobs are awesome, but they never happen the way they do in porn. And by the way, guys, while I'm on the subject, if you guys are getting blowjobs from your girlfriend, shave. It's not even a hygienic issue. It's more just out of courtesy. The way I see it is, if a girl's nice enough to give me a blowjob, the very, very least I can do is to not make her feel like she's simultaneously flossing. But it's really weird because the rest of me is really hairy. So if you ever have the misfortune of seeing me naked, it's kind of like one of those black and white aerial photos of Vietnam during the war. Just like, jungles and jungles, and then that one area that got napalmed, and just jungle troop movements. It's a mess. But, I'm kind of getting off track here. Yeah, porn. But that kind of stuff, it never happens the way it does in porn. But I always started thinking, like, it would be kind of funny, if a guy, like, at home actually tried to pull kind of that shit, like that dirty talk stuff in porn with his girlfriend. He's like, he's getting a blowjob at home, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he's like, yeah, suck my cock! It's like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. Could you fucking hurry up and finish? I'm late for work. Yeah, dirty bitch. What did you just call me? I love you. Or like I don't know, like other things that porn kind of over-exaggerates, three-ways. Like three-ways never ever happen the way they do in porn. It's much more awkward. There's no high-fiving or shit like that. It's just a whole lot of, okay, no eye contact. If I don't look into his eyes, it's not gay, no eye contact. All right, one bro fist bump. Okay, no eye contact. I used to date this girl who gave me a lot of shit for watching porn. She was like, well, how can you watch that? So fake. I'm like, yeah, so is 50 Shades of Grey. What's your point? It's all just shit we relieve ourselves to, which, by the way, I think is very important. No, because especially, it's kind of what, like teenage boys, for example, you don't know what you're fucking doing. You just rely on that stuff. It's like the first time a teenage boy gets to touch a girl's nipples, he has no idea what he's just like, it's like he's looking for a radio station. So, but, for guys especially, like masturbation is one of those things that, I don't know if a girl in here has ever walked in on a guy masturbating, but trust me, it's just as embarrassing for you as it is for us. Because guys masturbate, there's no grace involved. For us, it's really just 30 seconds of shame that we need to get out of the way in our daily schedule so we can do better at work. And we're just like staring at our computer screen like we're Hannibal Lecter. Like Jack Nicholson in The Shining, just... And I don't know, for some reason, we always look like we're in pain when we're jacking off too. It's like we're getting electrocuted. You can even have the sound too. And just like CPU overload. Hello, sir. Welcome to Toys R Us. How can I help you? I don't know, man. I've been trying to put myself out there more in the dating market. I use Tinder a lot. Like, Tinder is awesome, but what I love about Tinder is not just using it, it's the idea, the concept of Tinder. Like, you guys realize that as a species, we are now at a place in time where we are able to swipe the potential future mothers and fathers of our children at the same time we're taking a shit. People say romance is dead. But you see, even those times when I do get lucky, I have sort of a, what you call a hearing problem with women, in that I have sex with them and then I just never hear from them ever again. So I realized like very quickly on that, what do you do when you're a guy like me and, it's not going too well for you in the dating area in your country? You go to China! Dude, I realized very, very quickly on that China was my Mecca. I mean, come on, look at me. I'm an out-of-shape white guy who's slightly taller than Danny DeVito. China is like Mardi Gras for me. I don't know, like for some reason, I'm like a solid 8 in China. I mean, either that or girls in China just really, really want a visa. Which would explain a lot of the weird compliments I got, just, hey, well, hello, white boy. I like your ears. Thank you. Just start like developing a weird ego for my ears. It's like, hey, baby. During sex, I'm like, yeah, use my ears. Oh, man. No, it's, China is actually a really cool place. And it's, to go to show what I was just saying, I actually managed to get a girlfriend when I was living in China. I mean, it didn't last very long. She said that I cheated on her, which I don't think happened. I was just clubbing, and I saw her on the dance floor, so I ran up and gave her a kiss. Or at least I thought it was her. So, turned out to be a girl who just looked exactly like her, but, you know. I mean, I know it didn't last, but at the time I was actually very happy because at that point I'd been single for 3 years. I was like, at that point I was pretty much, I'd made peace with the fact that I was going to be jacking off to Sasha Grey every day until I died of alcohol poisoning. It was fun. She was a nice girl because she was really into those like Chinese drama shows, like Chinese TV dramas. Now I should probably explain. In China, there are 4 things on TV. There's the news, also known as communist propaganda. There are singing competitions. The Fuck Japan World War II series, which I believe is in its 95th season. And then, of course, there's drama shows, which basically consist of women screaming and crying for 45 minutes and dudes getting their testicles extracted through their wallets. It's awesome. It's like watching a documentary about my ultimate nightmare of what being married is. So I'll give you an example of a show we were watching. Like, there's this couple, they're walking in a super mall, and this girl who's just fucking death gripping her husband the whole time. And they walk past like a store that's selling like bags and purses and stuff. So she just stops and goes, 老公, 这个包好漂亮哦, which translated means, husband, that bag is really beautiful, hint diddy hint hint. And he's just like, stops and just, you know, gets out his wallet and gives her the credit card, and she's like a kid at Disneyland, like, just grabs the card, runs in the store. And I'm just watching this thinking like, wait, is this what being married in China is like? And I look over at my girlfriend, and she's got this like creepy smile on her face. It's basically like, it's like the same look a guy would give to his girl when suggesting anal. It's like, yeah, you see that? I like that. It's gonna happen one day. Oh, man. Now China is, they're like obsessed about marriage. And I noticed that how, like, marriage isn't everything. It's not just a marriage thing and then there's others. Marriage, like, consumes the entire society. And you see it in places where you never thought it would come out. And my favorite example of marriage coming out in China was in a leaked sex tape. So you guys probably didn't hear this. It's in the news in China. There was a leaked sex tape. This couple filmed themselves having sex in a dressing room of a Uniqlo store in Beijing. So they were banging in the dressing room, and the guy had the camera up to the, you know, mirror thing. It was like the greatest selfie ever taken. And it's like he's banging her, and it's like really hot, and then all of a sudden he says this. He's like, yeah, call me your husband. Yeah, tell me we're gonna be together. See, only in China is something like this considered dirty talk during sex. It's like, yeah, you like that monogamy, don't you? Oh God, tell me you want a June wedding. Oh God, my parents are gonna love you. Oh, man. Yeah, you guys gotta go to China once in your life, it's awesome. I think I'll probably never forget the first time I went to China. We landed at Shanghai airport, and this tour bus came to pick us up. And it was like fucking 50 degrees out in the middle of July. So we all got on the bus, and our tour guide, this lovely little girl, it's like 20s, she looked 12 though, but she was in her 20s. She was like, she apparently had a joke ready for us. So she turned off the air conditioning, and she asked us, like, hey, is everybody feeling really hot? We're like, yeah, we're fucking scorching here. Turn the air conditioning back on. We're just like, oh, no. See, the thing is, we have an expression here in China. We have a saying, which is that Shanghai is a very hot city, but it is not the hottest city in China. Do you know what the hottest city in China is? The hottest city in China is Shaoshan, because that's where Mao was born, and Mao is the sun that never sets. Yeah. You don't say. What the fuck are we doing here? Yeah. I don't know. I mean, doing stand-up in China it's actually kind of different than doing it here. Like I always say, you know, in Iceland, if I'm not funny on stage, people just don't laugh. In China, I just get arrested. The Communist Party police officers are like, yeah, I don't get that. Yep, take him out. But I mean, it's probably no hard feelings for the Chinese because 2 days ago I actually did get my visa. So I'm going to be going back in 3 weeks. And I don't know, it's weird about China because, I don't know. The thing about China is that it's, you know, there's like this whole pollution. I remember I was like standing in the embassy. I was just dreading having to go back to China. Just like, I was like a little kid who didn't want to go to school. It's like, but mommy, I don't want to go to Beijing. I want to stay at home with you and breathe normal air. It's because China, like you guys saw those pictures this winter, man. That city is polluted as fuck. Like the skies over Beijing, they look like the clouds over Mordor. The Lord of the Rings fans. No, okay. I kept like waiting for like the Eye of Sauron to pop up over Tiananmen Square. It's like, Oyaku, build me an army worthy of China. What orders from Mordor, my lord? What does the Eye command? Imprison human rights lawyers. Can't do that kind of shit in China. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a different country because it's not just the air in China that fucks you up. Living in China, it's like living in a septic tank. It's like 90% of the air is sulfur. Your drinking water is liquid brown, and the Kung Pao chicken you just ordered is probably a political prisoner who died of radiation poisoning. I mean, it's gotten to the point where if I were to read a story in China that said that, you know, KFC in China had been serving people Ebola victims, I would have just gone, wait, when did Ebola come to China? That explains it. Thought there was more blood in my vomit than usual. No, but because living in a country, it puts everything kind of into perspective. Like, right now, I cannot listen to Icelanders when they complain about traffic. It's like, oh my god, do you believe this traffic on Miklubraut? I'm like, dude, there's like 6 cars on the red light here. Traffic in Beijing looks like the first 10 minutes of Saving Private Ryan. I don't know what the hell you're complaining about. But we do get to do a lot of cool shows in China for comedy. I remember like one show we did, we're really proud of that because it went very well and the proceeds all went to a very worthy cause, a group in China that needed a lot of money, the China Shanghai Stock Exchange. That joke kills in China, by the way. Like literally, people get executed for saying. Man, what a clusterfuck that was for China. That is, Europe was like, yeah, welcome to the party, bitch. See, that's the difference, because one thing Iceland does way better than China, we know how to fucking properly crash an economy. I remember back in China, like when that, you know, stock market crash happened, everyone was like, dude, did you hear, man? That thing crashed like 400 points. Like, I have no idea what that means. Like, dude, I'm a student in China. What, do I get diarrhea more now? Is that how that works? Like, actually, it'd be kind of funny if that was like an actual charitable cause. You know, people like gave money to bankers. Like, if that was the case, I would actually love to make one of those like public service commercials, but instead of like AIDS or starving children, it's bankers. Just have like really sappy music in the background, some like Sting. You'll remember me when the west winds move. Did you know, every year, thousands of investment bankers are forced to buy their third trophy wives' jewelry that was not mined authentically by African child slave labor. But you can help. With your donation, you can ensure that these bankers can have at least one cocaine-filled sex orgy a month as we lie in fields of gold. Oh, man. What's going on? You guys having a good time? Oh, man. No, man, it's, drinking's fun here. Drinking's fun in China, too. One thing that it's awesome about living in a communist country is that you never have to stay with your group of friends. You can always like move in onto other people's groups. My last day in China before I came back to Iceland, I sat down with like a group of like, it was like 5 Chinese people and I think like 4 or 5 Nigerians. And like halfway into the conversation, I realized very quickly that at the time I was the only person who could speak both Chinese and English. So the Chinese guy, like 8 beers in, leans over to me and says like, hey, tell him I really love black people. Like, what? Yeah. China and Africa, they're halpangyo, they're good friends. I'm like, dude, this is intense. China's become so powerful in the world stage, they've started harboring white guilt. That's amazing. That's when you know you're a fucking superpower, when you're not even, you're just apologetic for everything. It's gonna be great watching that development in the future. But this is one thing like that a lot of my professors at Beijing University kept telling me about. They hate that word superpower. And one of my favorite professors, he kept, like this guy, just want to give you a little intro to him. This guy speaks better English than probably any guy I've ever heard who doesn't have it as a second language. But he's just got a really strong accent. So like every time, like for example, when he said the word bonus, it sounded like he was saying boners. He was giving like this lecture on corruption in the Communist Party. He's like, oh, so you have these Communist Party officials, and the problem is that they were all getting a boners. I was like, what? But, oh yeah, it's not just contemporary. 50 years ago, Mao was giving people huge boners. And I'm just glued to him. He's like, and he obviously sees I'm paying attention, so he like gives me that hypothetical, like, so you are a Communist Party official. What do you do with your boners? Like, is this our homework assignment? Shit, man, I think I could finally get an A on something. Because Lord knows I can't get an A on any other project that requires me to use the goddamn Chinese internet. Like Facebook blocked, YouTube blocked, Google, Instagram, pretty much anything where you can share with your friends what you had for lunch. It's all fucking blocked. And one of the questions I asked that guy was, how is it, like, why do you block all these websites? Why does the government do it? And he didn't give me a political answer. He just said, oh no, it's because, the people in China, they're getting younger who are using the internet. So it's about, protecting the children. It's protecting the children of China. And I was like, I don't buy that for a second. If I know China correctly, the only thing China ever did that protected children was banning Catholic priests. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is what got me interrogated by the Chinese police officers last June. I'm going back in 3 weeks and I am not pulling back. I got fucking 45 new minutes in Chinese about how they suck. And I'm gonna tell you that story. When I got interrogated last June, 30 seconds in, I'm fucking shaking. I'm so frightened because this had never happened to me before. But after a while, I started thinking about it. And then I kind of realized, it's kind of hard to take an authoritarian fascist dictatorship seriously when it handles jokes about it the same way as an insecure 14-year-old schoolgirl. Just like, you're making fun of me? Why is everybody so mean to me? I'm sorry, I'm just kind of going through some shit right now. Just my stock market's all stupid. And Hong Kong doesn't want to be besties anymore. And nobody wants to go to my South China Sea party. And I don't know if Russia really loves me for me. Hold me, Pakistan. I love you. Gaukurinn, you guys have been absolutely amazing tonight. Thank you guys so much.
Wait. Do we want one more? Yeah. Come on, give us one more. One more joke. Come on. Helgi Steinar, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, well, might as well do another one. It's not like I got one of those fancy jobs to get to in the morning. I want to leave you guys with one more story, and I think this kind of story sums up China the best way I can think of. It's about the first time I got arrested, because apparently I'm like locked up abroad Helgi edition, just JFK Airport, China, So I told you guys about the girl I was dating in China. The thing is, she apparently really likes handcuffs. And hey, I don't judge. I'm a gentleman. If that's the girl's fancy, then I'll oblige. But the thing was, she lived actually pretty far away from my university, so I had to take the subway to see her all the time. And one time, like after we were done, I spent the night, and the morning after, I had to go back to my university. Of course, in China, when you take the subway, you have to put your bag on the X-ray thing. So they have to check inside, because there might be freedom in there or something. So they have to make sure none of that's there. And at the time, as soon as the bag went through the X-ray thing, I realized my handcuffs are still in there. And the lady who was looking at the thing never really thought about it until my bag went through. She's just like, just freaks out. She yells at the sergeant to come over. It's like, hello, he brings me over and he says, all right, sir, you need to open your bag. And I used the most cliche line ever, which was, it's not what it looks like. So I had to open the bag and show it to him, and he's like, you're not bringing that on the subway. I was like, oh, come on, no, it's not, see, it's what, I use it with my girlfriend. And he's like, no, you're not taking that on. And I was like, I can't find this anywhere in China for obvious reasons. So he says, all right, I need to call my superior officer. So, yeah, oh no. This 65-year-old dude walks through. He's like the commanding police officer, and I figured if this 32-year-old dude doesn't get it, that guy surely is not going to get it either. So he brings me into the back room into interrogation, sits me down, grabs my handcuffs, and says, "What is this?" I'm like, "It's a plastic sex toy?" It's like, "This is a weapon, young man. Have you no concern for the people's safety?" It's like, this is all true, by the way. I was like, clearly not. He's like, you told my sergeant here that this was a toy. How on earth can this be considered a toy? And I was like, realize, I gotta take this guy through the birds and the bees, like from A to C. He has no idea. So I'm like, well, because after all, it is China. I mean, 3 years ago, a group of farmers in central China stumbled onto a plastic vagina and actually thought it was a mushroom. So I do need to kind of inform the guy. So I was like, okay, how do I do this? Let's see, how did my dad do this? Hi, Dad. So I said, well, officer, you see, sometimes when a mommy and a daddy love each other very much, they will form a special type of grown-up hug while mommy is chained to the bed. The best part about this whole scenario is that in the corner, there was standing this beautiful, hot, like 23, 24-year-old policewoman. She was doing her absolute best not to die laughing, watching over the two of us have this back and forth. She knows exactly what's going on. And so at the end of like 35 minutes, the guy finally says, all right, you can go, but first you need to admit to your crime. And then he took out a camera and he started filming me doing my confession. And he said, all right, you now have admitted to your crime. You will hereby, from now on, you will never again bring guns, bombs, chemical... I was like, yeah, I knew that! Plastic sex toys, I didn't know that was on the list. And then, at the end of it, I get my bag, and the woman, she, takes me out. And then we get to the door right before I get back into the subway station, and she stops me and says, hey, listen, I know what's going on, don't worry about that. It was just standard operating procedure. It's just something we have to do when certain things like this happen. And then right before I left, she stops me and says, however, if you ever have any problems related to something like this again, here's my card. China! You keep telling me what a fascist dictatorship you are, and then when you least expect it, you reel me right back in and melt my heart. Thank you so much for the good times, China, and thank you, Gaukurinn. You guys have been absolutely amazing. Stick around for one minute.
Give it up for Helgi Steinar!
Well, on behalf of Golden Gate Comedy, I'd just like to thank you all for coming along tonight. This has been an amazing show, don't you think? Yeah? We also have stand-up tomorrow night. For those of you who are visiting in town, we have free open mic stand-up comedy starting here at 9 p.m. tomorrow night. We also have story night on Wednesday, so it's where comedians have to get up and they're not allowed to do one-liners. They have to tell stories, and the theme this week is my biggest regret. And I'm sure being comedians, there's a lot of them. We have had an incredible evening this evening. It's all been because of a few different people. Gaukurinn, round of applause for Gaukurinn. Please give it up for Golden Gate Comedy. Þórhallur. And one more time, Mr. Helgi Steinar. Round of applause. Is heading back to China in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Please make sure you buy this man a drink tonight. Go to the bar. There's going to be some music here on stage tonight.